Okay. Now, all that stuff is actually a really primitive thing in our brain. You don't consciously look up to the left or the right or consciously go left or right for audio. It's not something that we consciously do. Okay. But all our information that's stored in our brain, if we're a visual person, okay. So if you're a visual person, Joe, when you're learning and you're storing information, you're storing it in your brain. When you want to access that information, if you look up, your brain will automatically access that information easier than if you look straight ahead or if you look to the side or if you look down. Okay, so if you're trying to remember something, you'd look up and that's where you'd find the information. Okay, if you're an auditory person, you'd look to the right, not look to the right like that. Your eyes would just go to the right because that's where the information, that's the way that your brain naturally would access that information. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we take in the two things. We take in the way that you learn and we take in the way that your eyes naturally work, the way that you naturally access information in your brain. And we're putting them together. And we're saying, okay, if I want to access visual information that's already in my brain, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to look up either left or right and access the visual information. Yeah? Okay. So basically today we've learned about the 4 different learning styles. Okay, visual, auditory, read and write, and kinesthetic. Okay, we've learned about the eyes and how the eyes actually help us to find different information in our life. And just remember that right is remember. The top is visual. If we're looking towards our ears, it's auditory. We're hearing a sound. And if we're looking down to our heart, it's a feeling. Yeah, okay. So down to our heart is a feeling. Off to the side is auditory, up is visual. And then how those all combine into helping us to remember information. And that's pretty much it for today. Did we have any questions?
Lewis, does that change under the influence of alcohol in a nightclub?
So what happens is that we have markers, okay? So you might be a person when your eyes naturally dart around, okay? And then if somebody asks you a question, and your eyes dart around, they go, oh, you must be lying, okay? But that's not true because that's what you would naturally do. That's what your eyes would naturally do, okay? This isn't really, some people would take that one thing and they'd try and work out if somebody's lying based on that one marker. And we can't really base it on one marker.
No.
Yeah. Right? We look at a whole variety of different things. But when we meet people, some people we're just naturally drawn to. And some people we're not drawn to at all. And that's because the majority of stuff that we take in from another person is taken in by our nonverbal or our body language. So we're reading each other's eyes. Even sitting here, we are reading each other's eyes constantly. And we're taking in exactly what's happening in that other person's life. And if I'm telling you the story and I'm telling you, how happy I am, but you can see that I'm actually, my eyes keep going off to the left and I'm telling you like, oh, I'm living such a good life and I've got such a nice place and right. You going like, hang on, this guy's just constructing this. You might not have known this before, but subconsciously you know that. So you're going, this guy's bullshitting me because I can see he's constructing all this information that he's telling me. Yeah. Great question though. Any other questions?
Not so much of a question, but just checking from the pictures on you there. You look a bit concerned there, Lewis.
I think that's my natural state.
Good one, Sam. Is he looking to the left or the right? Is he lying?
Okay. Any other questions? Anything else you'd like to know?
No,
I just have a question. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Is this like for everybody, or is it just like
everybody
based off what? So everyone goes through this.
Every single person. So you remember that we come from like. If you go back to like mammals, when they study baboons and monkeys, their eye pattern is exactly the same.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. So
baboons and monkeys have exactly the same eye pattern as us. They also have stuff like if you stare directly at me, like remember we went to the angry one? The angry one was where I'm giving you a stare. Like if you stare at a baboon or a monkey, they will attack you, okay? Because they actually view that as aggressive. You're angry and you're staring at me. You're obviously about to attack me. So I attack you first. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are other markers of someone potentially lying?
There's so many markers. Your eyelids. So if somebody does their eyelids more rapidly, okay, so they might do their eyelids a couple of times.
Yeah.
That's generally a marker. That's generally a marker. If you see that they're constructing and their eyelids are like, going like that, then obviously you've got 2 markers. And then it's really just having all those additional markers, like there's fidgeting in the chair, and there's something like 50 different markers that you can, and they can say, okay, so you've displayed 20 markers when you answer this question. So there's a good chance that you're lying.
Interesting. I play a lot of poker, so I'm going to take that into consideration.
Yeah, look, so this will help you with the tells. So,
100%.
I tell you one thing that was really cool is if you're physically attracted to somebody or you see something that you really like, your pupils actually dilate.
Right.
Your pupils actually dilate when you see something. And the thing is that you're opening it up because you're actually trying to take in more information. Right. So there was a poker player and he actually won the game. And they said to him, how did you do it? And he said they were playing poker and the other guy picked up a card. And when he picked up the card, he actually saw his pupils dilate.
Wow.
He saw his pupils dilate. And that meant that was like, that card was attractive to him. That card was like, that's awesome. That's what I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he knew that guy had a better hand than him.
Interesting. Very cool.
Yeah. So there's a lot of tells, but these are just some of them. Joe, any questions?
No, not really. Just interesting, just listening to it all. I guess I do have a question. You said there's a lot of telltales where, people may lie or make things up and all that. But what happens in the case if you find yourself doing that? Is that an opportunity for you to, I guess, have self-improvement? If you're looking to the left or looking to the right, your way. If you notice that you're doing that, or is that more something along the lines that's your natural way of actually retrieving information?
It's your natural way. So, like if I said to you, Joe, I said, tell me your first car.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so imagine your first car. Now tell me if your first car was purple, okay? And you going, okay, my first car was blue. But you now I'm saying, what did your car look like if it was purple? You're going to have to construct that image because that image doesn't belong it's not in your brain. It's not there.
Yeah.
So you're going to be constructing that image. Okay. You went and played golf with the boys, and we know that we're taking 2 million pieces of information every, couple of seconds. We process that down we've got filters and biases, and all that information goes through our filters and biases. And we come out with like 132 pieces of information, which is broken down into 8 chunks. Okay. So you came back from golf and the wife goes, did you go on a golf cart? And I mean, it's a golf cart. That's not something you'd quickly forget. Yeah.
Yeah.
But because you've broken it down into those pieces and you're always going to golf cart, you don't remember that piece. So then you're actually trying to reconstruct that image. You're trying to go like, okay, so we were at the golf and then we went there and then we were doing that. And so you could be reconstructing it, not actually coming up with a lie, but you're just reconstructing the picture to try and work out if you did that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's why if somebody looks to the left, we don't immediately go, oh man, you're telling a lie. Not from that alone. Man,
it's interesting what you said about the baboons looking straight into the eyes. They get aggressive. So that's like a stare down. It's like a primitive thing, is it? That's a genetic makeup?
Absolutely.
Is it?
And humans are the same. Humans are the same. If somebody stares at you, you're like, hey man, like what's happening? What are you looking at?
Yeah.
You see that all the time, like when they do introductions of fighters in the weigh-ins. Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of that is they actually gauging the other person's eyes. And you can see all those things. Remember, we can see fear, or we can see all those emotions in the other person's eyes. We can see any weaknesses that's happening. We can see if I'm looking at your eyes, Andy, and you looking down, you've got self-talk. Self-talk is not normally, most of us, if we sit quietly on our own, most of us don't have self-talk where we go, I'm the most amazing person that ever walked. Okay, that's not our normal self-talk. Most of us self-talk is, oh man, I should do better. I don't know if people love me. I don't know if I've done the right thing. I've made so many mistakes. That's normally self-talk. So normally self-talk's a bit more negative. So if you were looking another person in the eye and they were looking down for self-talk, there's a general thing that you would know that they actually probably talking negatively about themselves. Not always, but I'm saying that would be like if you were looking at another fighter and they were doing that, you'd probably be going, okay, I've got this guy. Yeah. Cool. Okay. I hope you all learned something. I'd love you to go onto the Allium site and just leave some feedback about tonight. If you enjoyed it, if you learned anything, the Google review or something. Is that something we can just put on the link? If you could just go into if you Google Allium, just Google Allium, you can even do it now. Just Google Allium, and then it'll come up with Allium, and you just go reviews and just leave a bit of a review. Just say, you attended the Pathway program. You can put my name in or not. It doesn't really matter. And just, something that you learned. I'd really appreciate that. I really hope you all learned something. Write is remember, yeah? Write is remember. Write is remember. Visual at the top, looking at the ears, auditory, looking down, feelings. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you all.
Lewis. That was great.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
very
you,
much.
everyone.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
See you.
See you
Bye.
Friday.
See you Friday.
Bye, Monica.